rolling, and
this is all usable.
I'll do we'll probably,
we
like we said, we use whatever you tell us not to. So welcome to Orange Country this week. We are very excited that we have my friend, and so many people in this country, in the world, feel like they are your friend. And I'm so excited that you would come and visit with Gina and I. This is Jesse Tyler Ferguson.
It's so sweet of you to say that. It's so funny because I was just at the gym before I came here, and I was on the treadmill, and there's like a whole line of televisions, and one of the TVs had Modern Family on it, and I was sort of like walking basically kind of under the TV. And I was sort of looking around like, I bet, so many people are just like, oh, this is crazy. The guy on TV is right here. No one cared.
That is crazy though.
But they probably did. They're trying to act cool, or they don't want to bother you.
But that's never happened to me before, where I've literally been like, I've been on an airplane when people are watching it, and then sometimes it's, I'll walk by and see if they notice. But
it reminds me
of very tunnel visioned.
It reminds me of a story I've told on here before, but I have to tell it through his influence of it. I was telling the story of once going to Disney and paying for the VIP and doing all of that, and then but not getting the same treatment that I had seen some of my famous friends getting.
Oh, yeah.
And so I asked the guy, like, what, this is different. Like, I came here with Kelly Clarkson, and this is not the same thing, but I'm paying the same thing.
Right.
And he said, oh, well, when someone's a celebrity, we have to do it a little more, more elevated so that people don't bother them. So eventually, throughout the day, this one person recognized me and came up and said, oh, we love Songland. Can we take a picture? Well, then the guide said, oh, we didn't realize you were a celebrity. And I go, well, I am. So what do I get? And he said, well,
that has to happen 2 more times.
That's what he said. I swear. He goes, if it happens again, then we'll change the format.
That's so funny.
And then I couldn't get anyone to notice. I was walking around, no sunglasses, no hat. I was just like using my loud country voice, hoping someone would hear me. But really I remember Justin, your husband, talking about you guys going to Disney. And I was asking him, I was like, I'm sure y'all get that Kelly Clarkson
treatment. You must get recognized a lot.
I do.
Yeah.
But the first time we went to Disneyland, we had the same thing happen where, we had a guide with us, and my TV show was produced by Disney, ABC, Disney. It's all, we probably shouldn't be talking about any of these studios, by the way, but okay, whatever. It's out there.
Love you already.
In the middle of a strike. But it was the same thing where they were like, okay, well, we'll be with you all day, but there's no special treatment to back alleyways and getting around the park easier. And then it started to be very obvious that I needed that extra level of, because the show was very popular and people were coming up to us and like, oh, this is a whole other thing. So I did get bumped up pretty quick, but
I feel like that sort of, like what I said in the beginning, everyone feels like they're your friend.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a hard kind of famous to be, because I remember seeing Sharon Stone one time on Oprah, and it was when she was a huge movie star. And Oprah said, God, it must be so hard for you to go out. And Sharon Stone said, no, nobody talks to me. Nobody approaches me. And Oprah said, everyone comes up to me. Now, this was in the 90s.
Right.
And I think it's because she said it's because people think they know me.
Yeah, she's in everyone's living rooms.
And doesn't that feel the same for you? Like
it
people
does.
are just very much like, hey.
A lot of
people.
Did
they call you Mitchell?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
okay.
that and oh, where's Cam and Lily?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
But, it's also a lot of times people can't put their finger on how they know me. And they're like, oh, did we? And I was like, I think we went to school together. I always go along with, they know me from somewhere. It's like we went to school together.
Right. Let me take you down this road.
Yeah.
We'll go down this road. Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, we did. How? And then they kind of believe that I went to school with them. It's really fun.
It kind of feels like that. Like you just kind of always been there. I mean, how long ago did the show first premiere?
2008.
It's very interesting for me because I was a huge fan, just like everybody else, but for me in my life, I was a fan even before when I had a traditional family, and then I had a lot going on, and divorce. And now I feel like I have this modern family, like legit. And I'm always referring to like, oh, it's a modern family, but it really is like modern family because everybody gets along, but there's like kooky characters involved in the family. And it's such an interesting, I relate to it so much.
I think everyone does. And not to just talk about that, because I'm sure you've spent 15 years talking about the relatability of that, but to point out, when we've talked about this before, we see ourselves, my husband and I, so much and my sister and her husband are totally Claire and Phil. And I have the same relationship with my sister that you have with Julie Bowen on the show. And I'm you, and it's not just because we're genders. And Michael's just like Cam. I mean, it's funny how every family, that's not just us, they can all find themselves in it. And that's not what we wanted to necessarily specifically talk about today, but it does involve that among other projects. I got to see you on Broadway in Take Me Out in a Tony-winning performance, which was mind-blowing. And I just went through an experience of having a show that I was, a composer of, be on Broadway, and the 10-year journey of that family. Gina is on Real Housewives of the OC, and they have this family dynamic that where the crew comes and lives in her house for part of the year. And I'm sort of using this hour as therapy for me because I'm in the grieving part.
It's hard. Yeah.
It's so hard.
It really has been
Is this
much
the
harder.
first time that you've had that sort of experience where it's like a family and then it's gone?
Like drama in high school was the last time that leaving and feeling like I wish I could go back in that bubble with those people.
Yeah.
A lot of what I've done in my career it's been team oriented, but it's been me.
Right.
And so it wasn't.
And there's no specific, like if you're working with an artist and you collaborate on something, there's always the possibility of that collaboration happening again.
That's right.
With theater, when you put it out there, specifically with theater, it's like you all come together to work on this thing. You're in a room together. You're trying new things. And in your case, workshopping something for almost 10 years. And then there's that point where it's done. And it's really like birthing a baby. But it's like when you birth the baby, it also goes off to college at the same time. And it's
fast.
And fast.
Yeah.
And
you
are no longer needed in that
right.
situation. And it's heartbreaking. I've, worked with so many directors and writers who have had that same grieving process. And it's very difficult because you develop these relationships with the entire cast and then the crew and the director and the writers. Everyone's a big family and you're creating art together in a collaborative process. And so like when that's taken away, there's no way that you can't grieve. I think you'd have to be dead inside and have the coldest heart to not feel sadness when that happens.
Yeah.
And it's hard for the cast that you left behind too, because they love seeing you every day. And, it's hard because you had this thing that you were focusing on every day. And,
it will never be, people will be like, well, we'll do this together. We'll do this. Or when we come back to do the London production,
right.
But it will never be
the same.
Same.
Yeah.
But also think about, because I know with your show specifically, there was a lot of ups and downs and what are we doing and what is a show now? And I was very fortunate to see it very early on back in Dallas, I believe.
Yeah.
And when it had a whole other title and the plot was completely different songs. I mean, think about all of the times of pain that it took to go. You forget all that, of course. It's the same with like parenthood. Like you forget about all the horrible times with the kids, and like you just remember the great stuff. So you're remembering all the great stuff.
That's right.
But what you've also have to remind yourself is that you've created this thing that is going to live on forever. Like what's going to be crazy for you, Shane, and I've experienced this with Spelling Bee, when a show I created on Broadway, is now I get to go like see high schools do this show and see this thing I create. And that's another whole level of like pride that you're going to have in your work that you've done. And I cannot wait for that moment. That alone is going to be exciting.
Honestly, the kids just started school in Santa Barbara. We've recently moved there, and their school they're in they're in 5th grade, but it goes up to 8th, and their school has a new theater, and they just had this like unveiling of it. And I thought, God, if when they were in 8th grade, that show could be here, and maybe it will be. I mean, I don't know if it'll be that quick, but if I ever was that, you're right. That's something to so look forward to, the iterations, the new waves of emotion. I think it's just been
And you're going to see some terrible productions of Shucked. That's the beauty of it. You're going to see some productions like, oh my God, what have they done? But it's also going to warm your heart so much because it's like so earnest and so heartfelt.
And they're trying.
They're trying so hard.
A few years ago, we were in Washington State. Brandy Clark, who's my co-composer on Shucked, she was the grand marshal of a parade in Morton, Washington, where she's from. And while we were there, the local theater was doing 9 to 5.
Amazing.
Oh, I worked for the producer of the movie.
Oh,
so
well,
about the Broadway production.
Yeah.
1,000 years ago, Bruce Gilbert. Yeah. That was like
Yeah.
a former life for me. I worked for him. I was his assistant.
Oh,
on the Upper
really?
East Side.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It was a wild job. Sorry, I digress.
No,
But go
that's
ahead.
good to know. Though,
Random jobs I had.
Yeah, for sure.
well, we all had.
Yeah.
Though, but that show was, oh boy, if any of the cast hears me on this, but they had a rough go of it.
Yeah.
We just couldn't even believe it. I was
not Tony nominated.
Well, and at that
performances.
time we have become good friends and also worked for a while with Stephen Aremus, and he did the arrangements. And I just texted him. I was like, I'm not sure these are your arrangements.
I'm sure they were doing their best with those charts, but they were like, I don't know. My mom went to go see, she'd seen the Broadway revival of A Funny Thing Happened on the way to the Forum with Nathan Lane in New York. And then she was visiting some friends in Florida, and they had tickets to like a matinee performance of like a local theater production of A Funny Thing Happened on the way to the Forum. And I was like, well, Mom, how did it compare to Broadway? And her response was, some of the songs sounded the same. Not all of them, some of them.
I recognize some of the songs.
I feel like that's still a kind review.
Yeah, it was
Mom.
a kind review.
Yeah,
I think so too.
That's so good. Yes. I actually am sitting here like I have hit the jackpot because I didn't even think of this. Recently, my daughter, Sienna, she's 9. She came to me and she was like, Mom, the paper that came home, I got to submit the paper. I want to do this program. I'm like, I don't even know what she's talking about. I filled it out. I checked the box for also if you're interested in being a co-manager of a team, right? So you check the thing for the school. And I was just so proud of her because she doesn't really go outside her box, and this was driven by her. And so I was like, I got to sign her up and I got to do this. And I just fielded a phone call from the guy who's the director of the program, or, one of the people involved in the program. And it's completely not associated with school at all. It's an independent program, completely volunteer based, called Imagination or Destination Imagination. And it's like based on, it's solution oriented, like STEM stuff, but then they have to create a whole performance around it with a script, and they have to solve a problem, and then costumes and all this stuff. And apparently now I'm going to co-manage.
I was going to say, you're basically a co-producer in this now.
And I'm like, oh my God. So I think you're going to have to field that one for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
I got so confused in the description.
Me too. I don't even know what I said yes to, but I'm terrified. I'm terrified.
I thought you were talking about.
It might be like a new branch of Scientology. Who knows?
It might be. Yes, I'm in now. So, I'm good. I'm going all the way to the top of the A-list now. Yeah, forgot it.
My God, that's so funny.
I know, but I don't.
I'm waiting for that. My
but
oldest is only 3, but I'm just like, I'm seeing my friends who have kids around, is it Sierra?
Yeah, Sienna. Yeah.
Sienna's age. And I'm just like, oh God, this is a whole other level.
Oh my God, yeah. The things they get into and all the activities and all the things. But that's so exciting for you to be able to be, the thing is you got to hope sometimes like you want them to do the stuff that you do.
Of course,
then, know, but then sometimes they go the other way and they don't want to do any of the stuff that you're good at. And then that's a whole nother thing because then you got to figure out, I'm figuring this out now,
That's actually a really good question. Today's episode is brought to you by Studio.com. Studio.com is the home of the world's best online music classes. Whether you want to level up your skills in songwriting, production, singing, or a lot more, Studio offers over 100 premium classes. So there's something for music makers of any level. Instructors include a 5-time Grammy Award winner, Her, world-renowned DJ Kygo, One Republic frontman Ryan Tedder, Broadway legend Idina Menzel, pop genius Charlie Puth, and of course, me, and many more. In my class, I teach everything I know about the Nashville approach to songwriting and about my own approach. I bring you into my studio and share with you my entire creative process from start to finish. I write 3 brand new songs in front of the class from scratch on camera, explaining everything I'm doing and mostly what I'm thinking along the way, because songwriting is mostly in our head and our hearts. Hopefully, it's hard to explain until you actually see me doing it, where I'm saying, this is how I got this idea, or I'll jot something down, or I'll record a piece of music and then I'll put it all together, play a little on the guitar, play a little on the piano. I'll get into lyric writing, storytelling, melody, song structure, collaboration, and so much more. So head over to studio.com/Shane to check out my class or explore over 100 other amazing classes from the world's best. And again, that is studio.com/Shane. That's actually a really good question.
Yeah.
And I know you've been asked it before.
Tell me.
Would you want them
to be an actor? That's such a complicated question because I've worked obviously with children who were actors. And specifically the child I worked closest with was 3 when she was cast, which, that's Beckett's age now. I know Beckett's too young to figure out if that's something he would want to do or not do. I have a very close relationship with Aubrey. In fact, I'm going to go see her school play in a few weeks.
Oh my God! Imagine the pressure of those other actors.
I know. I hope no one tells them that I'm there.
Wow.
But it's tricky because I was a part of that world. So, but it was never my kid. And I don't know. I don't know what I would do if I can definitely confidently say I would not help usher that in right now. Also, Beckett's interests are so varied. Like, he's really into gymnastics and jumping around. And I just feel like he would be so bored on a set where you're having to sit and wait and
it is hard. It's a lot of work.
He doesn't he doesn't understand timelines, and it's like a lot of hurry up and then wait.
Yeah.
And
actually, that's funny to think about, how much she had in those years had the hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Or do it now wait.
Yeah.
I mean, wait, first of all, did she not change?
She did. We had babies for the first 2 seasons.
Okay.
And they were
and then it
very
jumped.
unhappy. And so we fired the babies. Ella and Jaden, they were so sweet, so lovely. And then every time the cameras were on, they were just like, nope. No,
really.
It was kind of heartbreaking, but their parents were really great. We're always there and helped us through those rough times. And then it became kind of clear in the 3rd season that we're going to have to move forward with a different actor. And so that's when Aubrey joined us. But she was also, so young and not fully understanding this weird thing. TV's weird.
It is weird.
You do the same thing basically all day, and she's like, "Why are we doing this? We did this already. Why?"
See, I've never been on the set of something like that.
Oh yeah,
I've seen a
people always think it's gonna be really
multicam.
fun, right? And those do move faster because there's an audience there, but people always think it's gonna be really fun, and then they're like, oh, "I'm bored."
Yeah.
They always get bored
because they just have to keep. You just guys have to.
But it's not. It's not.
And they
exciting.
don't understand even the full concept of the whole script or what this scene is. They're just there to say these few things, I would imagine, and so they don't even really have a concept of what's actually going on.
Right. I mean, it's obviously different with game shows and reality shows.
Yeah.
I mean, you sort of. Those things live with in the moment. There might be pickups.
How often
here and
do you
there.
have to repeat something? Gina?
We don't repeat.
Never?
It's real. You're really doing. I mean, the only thing we repeat a lot, which is the most awkward and uncomfortable things, is the walking in and you're at the restaurant with the person who, and you're like, "Hi, I'm meeting my friend here." I hate that.
Oh, I always see them say that. And I'm always they're acting like the camera's not there.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Those parts I hate, but for the most part, and my kids aren't really in it a lot, which I do like. And now I'm trying to kind of.
Oh yeah, how do you negotiate that? How do you draw those lines?
I think what it is you actually, your kids in your life at the beginning are much more in it because they're trying to establish you as a character and who you are in your life. The more you get into it with the women and all of that, the less it's necessary, And so, and I unless you're pushing for it, it doesn't have to be. And I'm very much it's a different world that I live in than you. I have 3.
Okay.
So I am now we're good. I don't want my kids to really necessarily know, be a part of it. Like they know that about the show and stuff, but we're very much like everybody has to work. This is mommy's job, and that's all. Like we are not different or special because of this. This is just our job. And more people might know mommy, but that doesn't make us better than anybody and that kind of stuff. Because I'm really nervous for, the social media.
Yeah. Well, that's a thing that we have to deal with that we didn't have to deal with 10 years ago.
Yeah. So I am getting more aware of that, nervous of that. And so like I will have them participate if it's like a family dinner or something. But for the most part, if they don't want them in it or they're not pushing for it, neither am I.
Yeah. That's smart.
I was just watching a clip from Salt Lake City and Heather Gay was talking about, I guess her kids are getting old enough now where the social media thing, and she's a housewife, and she said, I didn't want to make my kids' lives harder by doing this. And I only wanted to enhance our lives and be able to support our family as now she's a single mom and, or divorced. And anyway, I hadn't really thought about what that must be like, especially because you guys are intentionally putting personal stuff on there because that's what people want to see. And then your kids are going to school and they're like, your mom, what did she think when such and such called her a bitch?
Right.
I
mean,
that's true.
No, it's weird. It's complicated. Yeah, it's very complicated. But that's why I like that I live very South County. I'm removed from everything. Everybody in my community knows me. Everybody's very comfortable with me. It's not like a thing. They think it's cool and exciting, but like everybody at the school knows us. We're normal people. Yeah. That's why I like where I live because I'm you either have to live, I think, like removed from it and be in a comfortable place, or you just got to lean into it, and then you're going to be in like LA and go full fledged, and that's fine too. But you just have to pick a lane, I think, and that's works for us.
Fascinates me. I love reality television. I have forever, but now having a friend that I can go, oh, what about this? What about this when this happens? It's such a different world. And
it's completely different from your world.
It's also work.
I mean, yeah.
I think people have this idea that, the Kardashians are just laying around draped on things and waiting for someone to bring them a Red Bull and maybe
maybe now
spark their energy. No, but
they're working hard.
Yeah, they're working
hard.
And you can't be overly precious about, we've talked about this. I'm such a perfectionist and always so worried about the way things are perceived.
Sure.
That it would be so hard for me if someone just stuck a camera, I'd be like, what's behind me?
Right.
I couldn't just relax.
Exist.
To me, that is
that a thing
gift.
For you, Jesse? Because you seem very comfortable in your own skin to me. You just kind of.
I am, but I've done a bit of reality TV as well. I was the host of the reboot of Extreme Makeover Home Edition.
So fun.
So fun. I got to interact with people whose, lives are about to be changed with this new house. And, I felt a lot of pressure on like getting their story right. Or if I remember we were shooting like 4 episodes at the same time. And so I got confused and I called this family the wrong name. I called them another family's name, and like the entire community's there to celebrate this family. So it was like all of their friends were in the street, and I'm like doing this big rally, and I say the wrong family name, and like I basically got booed by the community. No. And I was like, I am so sorry. And I knew why I did it, but I was so mortified that I did it.
It looks like big celebrity comes in, doesn't know
his home, doesn't know the homework.
Doesn't care. Yeah.
And I felt, first of all, I don't want to be perceived that way. I felt bad that like I might have embarrassed them. And so I took the bullet. I was like, I am so sorry we're shooting 4 episodes at the same time. Like, I know where I am. Yeah. Just give me a second. Like,
yeah.
Well, and they were forgiving, but I felt so exposed. And obviously not all that was going to be edited out.
Yeah.
But
but
it
not
still
if you
happened.
were on a different reality show. If you were on Housewives, that would have been the whole episode. That would
I know.
That might have been 2 episodes.
Right?
Yes.
I know you.
Oh, you're right. Y'all would have been like,
they would have.
And then I would have sat with Emily and been like, oh my God, I can't believe that Jesse didn't even know their name, and it would have turned into a whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a different
He
world.
would have had to come out at the reunion.
Right?
Totally. Yeah.
It reminds me of when the first time I won a Grammy, Cyndi Lauper said Shane McAnally.
Oh, no way.
You know what? People really do.
She's
you think me, Kirschenheiter,
notorious for mispronouncing names, though.
Yeah. Well,
your name's tricky to people. I've heard it
It
botched
is
a lot.
It is tricky. That's my least favorite way that people mispronounce it.
Say it again.
McAnally.
McAnally.
It was really hard for
coming out of her mouth
in
like
high school.
Hi, Shane McAnally.
She goes,
oh, merry-go-round. She mispronounced all of our names.
Merry-go-round.
Cassie Musgraves, Shane McAnally. And what's funny is our friend Josh Osborne, who has an easy to pronounce name, she said his name, fine. And Casey Musgraves and I looked at each other and were like, did we win?
We didn't even
and
know if it was you.
Josh goes, I did. That's really
hilarious.
Funny. So when you were talking about still keeping up with Aubrey and going to the school play, which I absolutely love, it kind of brings us back to that connection with people and how when the show or when Take Me Out, when it was first over, I mean, do you sort of feel? I'm sure you jump right into other things, and I tried in the last few months, but I'm so worried. And I won't even say I'm worried about everything that goes on there. And we've had major COVID go through Broadway, and so we've been even down swings where like the choreographer jumped in and did a track one night.
Yeah.
And there's not enough people to cover all this, but we can't. But the show truly. In Broadway, the phrase "the show must go on," they have to because to even survive. You can't. I mean, you
definitely try not to cancel.
Right.
I think there's a little bit more forgiveness around it, especially with the pandemic. I think we all kind of realized, we do have to look out for ourselves and be careful, and like people shouldn't be showing up if they are pushing through something. You don't want to injure yourself. But I mean, I know like there was major rains in New York. Like literally the subways were flooding.
That was wild.
It was wild. It looked like, it was like post-apocalyptic.
Oh,
in
Alex
New York.
Newell posted her on a bus and the water is coming onto the bus.
Yeah.
And
I've seen this because I'm from New York. So I've seen the subways flood before.
Yeah.
But not like that.
No, me too,
not to the level. I mean, it was in the streets. The cars were getting.
Yeah.
That's wild.
But Broadway still went on, and people were encouraged. And I when I was doing Broadway, I remember there was a transit strike, and I remember walking to work that day. And I lived in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, and I walked across the bridge. I walked uptown. I walked all the way to the theater district. It took me an hour and a half.
Wait, the strike was Uber, cabs, everything,
the subway system.
Oh my God, I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah,
that would
Nightmare.
be a thing. All of them together.
Yeah.
How
and
long?
They basically told us the night before, they're like, we're still doing a show tomorrow, so make plans.
Figure it out.
If you have a friend in Midtown that you could stay at their place, do that.
Yeah, because even if you had a car, you couldn't maneuver through the city at that point because now everybody's jammed up all the streets.
Yeah.
Like you cannot, it's
well,
walk
like
or
I
don't
was,
go.
I had no money. I didn't have a car.
Oh, yeah. So great to hear that everybody starts poor. I love it. It's so great.
I did not have a lot of money at all. So
what show was that?
I think that was Spelling Bee. Yeah.
I mean, so you created a show that actually got made and put on Broadway when you hadn't had anything before that. How in the hell does that happen?
Well, it's sort of right place, right time. I mean, I had worked a little bit, but nothing that had really been.
Did you
big.
write it for you?
No. This was a show that started off as an improv show, like off Broadway at like a rat infested theater. I wasn't even a part of it at that point.
Oh.
But they ended up turning into a musical, and that's when I joined. And then it was a very collaborative process where we all were, contributing dialogue, and I helped like create the name of my character. I helped create some of the costume elements. I decided my character wears a cape, so I just made myself a cape and wore it into rehearsal the next day. It's a piece of the show that's still to this day, if schools do it, there's this
he's wearing a
character
cape.
of Leaf Coneybear has a cape. So, it was a very, but I got paid $1 a day to do it. I mean,
Why did they even
at the beginning? I know at the beginning we were doing it as a workshop in the Berkshires, and we did it over the winter. And, I think I got paid, I think it was like $100 a week to be up there.
Did you know then when those things were happening, were you able, because this is a big part of where I'm at spiritually, trying to remember the journey and what that means. And it's taken me almost 49 years now to realize that that is where the heart of it all is. And all of my biggest, greatest memories were in the part that felt small.
Yeah.
And when you were doing that, did you think, what am I doing? Is this ever going to happen? Or did you just think, I'm in it?
Well, I mean, I was a struggling actor at that time, so I was happy to be creating something. And it was with the composer that it happened to be one of my favorite composers. The first Broadway show I saw was a show that he had written. So it was someone that meant something to me just as like an artist himself. That I was getting to create something with him was very important. And it felt very unique and very funny and very interesting. And, I didn't know if it was going to have any legs, but that thing you said about like the quiet moments or sometimes the most meaningful moments, I think that's so true. And I think it also can, be something that relates to just like everyday life, quiet moments with your kids. It's because there's not a lot of like, pomp and circumstance around it. There's not a lot of like importance around it. Like there's something so simple and pure about those quiet, tiny moments, and kind of they're the seeds of so many other things that I think when you're talking about those like things that wouldn't necessarily be meaningful in like the grand scope of things are so meaningful. It's because that's like the seed of inception, and like that's like where so many like wonderful emotions are bred from those moments. And I totally get what you mean. Like those small moments, especially in the creative process, are very meaningful.
I just wish I had been better at
You don't know at the time that they
recognizing
are.
it.
Well, that's just it. You don't know.
And nobody can tell you.
You can't, because that's just perspective is the only thing that can make you see those moments is getting on the other side of them, right? And looking back. But then the good thing is that you can look back and reflect and have really warm, great feelings about something that in the time. I mean, I saw you during the previews. You were not. Now I see you're like, I miss everybody. I was like, I think Shane's gonna keel over. I don't think he's gonna make it. Like you were exhausted and stressed and scared.
Well, yeah, I'm known. You know what people are gonna think of it.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's the most exciting and the most terrifying time. Those previews.
Oh well, and also a couple days in, when our leading lady got sick very early, and that I don't know if I've ever been more scared than when they said she did the matinee and they said she won't be back tonight. We're talking 4 performances in.
Yeah, the understudy's not really ready to go.
No, she wasn't ready at all. And
she's so great.
I had never. Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah,
you saw.
Yeah, she's phenomenal.
I saw her too when I was there last.
I was just like this. I don't know how anybody does this. I couldn't sit in there. I had to stand outside. And like Sarah Ogleby, the choreographer, she's done a lot of shows, and she was like, "Are you kidding? This is the magic.
Yeah,
this is Broadway.
That's the theater. That's so true, though. She's right.
Yeah."
And that's also like Broadway performers are a very specific breed. I have seen some star-making performances from understudies who go on for the first time, and they're like, "I have my shit together. Step aside.
Waiting.
You're worried. I'm not."
That's right. That was how Tracy was.
Yeah.
Or maybe that was Aubrey actually that went on the first time. But yeah, I think that I just appreciate all of your knowing this over and over about the family aspect of it, and also being able to appreciate and relish what else hasn't happened yet, and talking about those high school performances, talking about going on tour and all these things. I mean, it will be the beauty of having something will last.
You've created something that's going to live. It's a musical now that is going to live in the zeitgeist forever, and that's a really cool thing. It's a really cool.
Will having written that get me the VIP thing at Disney?
You're one step
maybe
closer.
Write a few more, but you are one step closer.
Will you go to Disney with us?
Yeah, I'll make sure. I'll share.
Yeah,
it.
right.
Yeah. Although
we ride your coattails.
I told you the story at the gym. No one seemed to care. I don't know. Maybe my star is faded.
It's fading.
Oh my god.
Actually, Kevin Cahoon told me a story. Kevin plays Peanut in Shucked and is a dear
he's
lifelong
how I know you.
friend. Yeah, that's how we know each other. He told me a story of you guys, and I forget what show it was, and maybe he was telling it in a more comical way because he's hilarious. But he said y'all walked in to some show and everybody was looking at y'all and like smiling and waving, and Kevin was thinking, man, Jesse's definitely still got it. And then Oprah was behind y'all.
That's right. That's right.
Oprah was walking
That's true.
down the aisle.
Yeah, it was neither one.
Yeah,
yeah, it was not for me. Believe me.
If you're ever looking for somebody to put your light out, just walk by Oprah.
Yeah, Oprah was behind us. That's right.
Is really, really funny.
So funny.
So
I got to tell you a story about. Okay, so this is a weird connection to you and my world. So my first year on Housewives, I didn't even know what was going on. I was like a normal mom, and then I was on the show. My co-EP, his name is Davis Michaels. He was an actor, And you will always be famous to him because you're like his low-key nemesis. Because
I feel like I have so many.
He would go up constantly for parts against you. You know, he has a very similar look to you, and obviously was auditioning for the same parts. And he's like, every part I would go up for, I would get to the end, and Jesse Tyler Ferguson would just always get the part for me. And he actually went up for Modern Family.
Oh, no
for
way.
Mitchell. Yeah, and obviously it worked out the way it
definitely know
worked
how
out.
that worked out.
Yeah. And I think he was on actually like maybe one of the episodes in he was in there somehow.
He ended up being in
something.
Another,
in some way. But he wasn't, obviously. But so to Davis, shout out to Davis. He's now a producer, and he's a phenomenal human, but you will always be like his
so
low-key
sorry.
nemesis. Yes.
Oh my God, I hope he sees this.
I know, me too. We met a lot of people actually who would come and do guest spots on the show and told us that they auditioned for the pilot.
Yeah,
which was always
when y'all had
an interesting
like
thing.
I mentioned Kevin Cahoon, and he was on.
He did an episode.
Was it just one?
Yeah.
When somebody like Kevin Cahoon, who is such a close friend of yours, ends up in that spot, and obviously his talent would get him there. I'm just curious. What was that? Would you guys suggest friends, or
sometimes
was it just complete?
But honestly, I had Colin Hanlon, who's another dear friend of ours, was on several episodes of the show, and Kevin was on an episode. I had other friends, but I don't think I would maybe suggest people, but they would still have to audition, and they were never given special treatment. So I think everyone really got it because they were talented. There was never anyone put on because like, oh gosh, we have to do this thing for this person. So they all
Colin just actually directed didn't he direct a run of Spelling Bee?
He did. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. That's a full circle moment too. Like, Colin was there when I was doing Spelling Bee out of town for $100 a week and saw early performances of it. And then, he was actually dating a guy who was in the show at the time, and they've since broken up, but he and I remained very close friends. And he was with me for the entire run of that show. Like, he got to see all, as we're nominated for Tony Awards, and he was a part of all that. So then to have him direct a really great production of it in New Jersey at the George Street Playhouse, 20 years later.
That is crazy.
I went to go see it, and it was
And those are the kind
really
of things
special.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
Saying to me, these will be things, unexpected gifts through the years. They have the legitimate, like, I'm twisting my neck to look at you and talk in the microphone, but they have the coolest group of friends, and they all support and love each other so much. Talking about Jesse and Colin and Kevin, there's many others, but I've had the privilege.
You gotta keep a tight, small circle. It's better,
but it is really cool to have watched from the sidelines, even though you were already on the show and a household name by the time Kevin and I met, but that was a decade ago. So you were right in the middle of it.
A long time ago.
But you were, it didn't change any of that dynamic. Everybody was just so legitimately happy for each other. And I feel that among, friends of mine that have come up and done different things. Although I find it hard to imagine that would be an easy thing for a group of friends when someone. It's different than like when I started having success as a songwriter. When someone becomes a true star, like you are famous in every room you walk into, the friends that have known you forever, I think for them to not change, it may be just as hard for you not to change.
Well, celebrity, and I'm sure you feel this way. If you don't change a little bit by it, there's something wrong with you, because you are gonna. It's impossible to like walk through life and have people just know who you are, and it's not going to change you. Now, it doesn't have to change you in a bad way, but if it has to change you in a little, you have to adapt to it.
Recognize that.
You have to recognize it, and you have to adapt to that.
Yes, for sure.
So there is a change there. I try to not make it a negative change for sure. I also feel like there are a lot of. For me, I'm someone who really valued anonymity. I love my privacy. Even now with my kids, I like really tried to protect them from like being like, why do strangers want photos with Papa? Like, trying to keep things as normal as possible.
What do you do?
I usually say I'm with my family right now. Yeah. Is it okay if I just say hello?
Yeah.
Almost everyone has been totally understanding of that.
Yeah.
Usually people are way more understanding than you expect they're going to be.
Especially when you're kind about it.
Sure. I try to never be
I can't imagine you ever being,
there are days when I have bad days, but
See, I'm opposite. When people maybe know anything I've done, I'm like, Would you like a picture?
You're like,
And
"Here
they're
I
like,
am.
not really. I
Here
don't
I am."
need a picture.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a picture of
Really
me?
cool. The offer is here on the
But
table.
I also, I mean, she's more famous than anyone will ever meet in our entire lives. But I witnessed Taylor Swift interact with fans, and
Oh, yeah,
she
he's friends with
always,
Taylor.
she's so great. She takes it off of their hands, and she says, "We should take a picture together."
I actually do the same. I mean, obviously, I'm not a
But that's so generous.
If
If
you
you're
want to take a
meeting-
picture, because
Yeah.
you know they want to.
You know they want to. They're
and they
afraid
don't
to
want to
ask.
Yeah, so I just see, and they have their phone in their hand.
Yeah,
so I'm just
yeah,
like, do you
yeah,
want to
yeah.
take a picture?
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen recently, like her walking into the Jets game and
Uh-huh.
stuff. She's so kind. She
she's-
walks through the back, and she's going. And the other ones, I mean, I'm sure Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are lovely people too, but she's like, she reminds me of just such a normal girl. Like she's like,
Yeah.
"Hi, how are you doing?" You know, when she went to
Yeah.
like the people who are working there or the fan, she
Right.
just seems like her. I love people that they acknowledge the fact that they're famous and it's a part of their life, but it
But they're-
doesn't change who they are.
Yeah.
And I think that
their
comes through
foundation's
with
the
her.
same,
Yeah. She
Yeah.
seems like she has a really strong foundation.
I agree
for
with that,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. I have to
Well-
ask you one more question before we wrap
Yeah.
this because I'm very curious. Your podcast.
Yes.
What's the name of your podcast?
Dinner's on.
Dinner's on me.
Dinner's on me. How do you do, like, do you actually find it difficult to eat while you're doing, because on the show, we're always eating, but I never get to eat because we're like, blah, blah, blah. So how do you handle
It's
that?
so funny. And every guest that I've had, I think we've recorded 22 now. And every guest is like, "Oh, we're actually eating." And it's like, "Yeah, we're going to do this." And some, like, they're
Oh, God.
this, which, is very troublesome
Audio
for
issues.
some.
Yeah.
But, we have to keep as much of that in as possible to have the conversation going. But then I just had Jonathan Van Ness on, and they would take a bite of food and then lean away from the camera, the microphone, and eat, and then come back over here. So, it's, I do eat.
Yeah.
I try and ask a question, then while they're answering, eat, and try not to be on the microphone. But what I love about our podcast is, we are in a restaurant. You hear the background noise. You hear like the shakers of the martinis being made. You hear the waiter come up to the table. You hear our interaction with the waiter. You kind of get to see like how these guests are in public situations. And we want it to feel
that's
like
cool.
you are a third seat at the table.
It's an experience.
It's an experience.
And it's part of that experience.
Yes. And every show is a different restaurant. So for my producing team, it's like a new challenge. We walk into a new space every day. And like, there's been times where we've had to set up tables outside to be a little quieter, and you hear motorcycles going by. I just interviewed Niecy Nash and at a place that's close to us here in the Valley, and we were off Ventura, and it was like meow, 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 and we just embraced it. That's what it is.
Oh,
Yeah,
she
that's
actually
cool.
would be hilarious to have those moments
She's
with.
great. Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, that was a legitimate question.
I've been waiting to ask him.
I have a couple of
illegitimate questions.
Yes,
Yeah.
illegitimate questions. So first of all, this can definitely be edited out. We always give everyone the option for
getting
the
nervous.
first. I am a
It's
little
okay.
nervous. I'm getting a
It's
little
all right.
sweaty
We're
every
gonna
time we
do
talk
it.
about this.
I love
So
watching you
this started
squirm.
one time randomly on one of our early episodes. We got into, sort of accidentally fell into a story about this time when I was in high school and I had to use the bathroom in a canoe with this guy. It was horrible. And then ultimately we started asking people along the way, like, have you ever had an unfortunate, moment where you were caught either on stage or in a scene, or maybe in just an embarrassing situation where you had to go to the bathroom, or maybe you did go to the bathroom. I mean, Karen Fairchild told us that when her and Luke Bryan were on stage doing a duet,
Apparently
that
Luke Bryan
he
has
went
a lot
on
of-
and
yeah.
used the bathroom while they were standing there singing this sexy duet.
My
Yeah.
God. First of all, I'm going to tell you a story, and you can absolutely keep all of it in.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love this. Woo! I love how long it took you to get
It doesn't
there,
go
too.
well for me in this story.
Okay.
I was doing Spelling Bee on Broadway, and I should preface, like, just sort of set it up a little bit. We all were playing children in the show. It's adults playing children. So I was playing a 13, 12-year-old kid. All the children were very eccentric. They're kids in a spelling bee. And so my friend Sarah Salzberg was playing this character called Logan Schwarzenegger, and she had a lisp, and she has two dads, and she just talks like this all the time. And she was always in character, and she was just very funny. And so there was a point of the scene. So let me back up a little bit. It was a 2-show day. We had done our matinee, and then the restaurant, the Palm, the steakhouse, the Palm across the street from us was saying, we'd love to have you all come over for dinner between shows on your 2-show day. So we went over and they were having their lobster special. So we all got lots of lobster, buttery lobster, eating lots of lobster. Too much lobster for a 2-show day. Go back to the evening show. My stomach is not feeling right. Just gurgly, like already I can hear it on stage. So there's a point in the show where I should also say that the audience is very close to us. It's sort of like the round, and like
keeps getting better.
Where I'm sitting on stage is basically like the audience is close to me as you are to me in this moment. But the focus is not on us. The focus is on another part of the stage. There's these 2 other characters having a conversation, and me and Sarah Saltzberg are on the bleachers, and we're just supposed to be like, kind of in the background, not really pulling attention. So I'm whispering to Sarah as my character. I'm like, I really have to go to the bathroom. Like I'm feeling, and she's like, well, my dad's always say that you should always, like, if you have gas, you should let it out. Like you should it's very dangerous. You could be like, you could explode. What's happened to me? And like, she's like, just making me laugh. I start laughing so hard, I fart.
Okay.
And it's audible to an audience member who's like sitting so close to me. And the audience member goes, ew. And so then I start laughing. And then I start peeing myself. And so I'm telling Sarah, I was like, I'm peeing myself.
And you're saying it in character?
I'm whispering to her, just like, but I'm saying character. And Sarah starts laughing at me, and she goes, "Oh, I'm peeing too." And she starts going to the bathroom as well. And so both of us
God.
basically defecating and urinating on ourselves. Trying to keep quiet because again, the focus is not meant to be on us. It's meant to be on the other side of the stage.
Well, way to steal the show.
I know. It was really
Wow.
I think our dressers came in after the show
Very
and with, like,
Very
tongs
good.
to like take our to take the clothes.
Jesse, thank you so much.
That was amazing.
Not just for that story,
No,
but for
but what a
showing
poop
up.
scoop. What a poop
That's a real poop scoop.
That really is.
Here on
There it
Orange
is.
Country. No, really. Thank you.
Of course.
Definitely, as we're navigating new podcast land, we have to say you certainly broke the seal on us having a true superstar on the show.
You really did.
Thank
We appreciate
you.
it. So,
That's very kind.
thanks.
No one at Equinox knows who I am.
Now they do.
I do.
Now you're the guy who pooped himself on
Yeah,
stage.
exactly.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
Thank
This
you for
was so
having me.
wonderful.
All
That was fun.
We
was
did
fun.
it.